Today, we're gonna be talking about an oldie but a goodie, the V60 pour-over brewing method. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. This is the Brew channel. I am Hurston, and I'll be your guide as we look to find ways to brew whatever we brew better. So, another pour-over device. I know, but it's okay. Another pour-over device. I actually found this while I was looking for the last device that we took a look at, the Clever Coffee Dripper. I actually, I knew about a V60 before, but this was kind of one of the first times that I saw a all-encompassing group that would allow me to utilize the V60 Dripper technology. And so I went ahead and purchased it. I put the link in the description below for this particular version of this device. But what I found is that it was relatively inexpensive. And this is a tried and true method of brewing pour over coffee. And so we're gonna go ahead and unbox this. Yeah, I know, another unbox video. But we're gonna go ahead and unbox this, take a look at the components that are within it, and just know that this will be yet another way that we are going to brew the coffees, teas, and infusion beverages, but probably not so much the teas, more the coffees and the coffee alternatives. We're gonna use that. We're gonna use this for those beverages. So let's take a look at what's in the box, and we'll get an idea of what we can expect to use from this particular V60 coffee dripper. Okay, so if I'm reading the box as I actually am right now, this says that there are paper. Well, it doesn't say papers with an S, but it says paper in here. I'm assuming that means the filter. Dripper. That's the actual V60 device. There's a spoon, and then there's a server, as they call it, or the craft. Is it craft or is it craft? If you know the answer to that question, drop that in the comment section below. I'm very curious. I think I've seen it both ways, but maybe I just imagine things. Anyway, let's go ahead and break this box open and take a look at what's inside. Now, like I said before, this brewing method is very similar in general to the Chemex. And so if you've seen the Chemex video, hopefully it'll pop up in a card here in a moment. Go and check that video out. It's a little bit longer than the ones that I've been shooting recently. I wanted to cut down on the time out of respect for what you need to get done in the day. But it's a pour over method of brewing the coffee. So just as I stated on the box, there is a spoon. So there it is. I'm assuming that this is a spoon for scooping your coffee into your V60 after you've placed the filter in. This is the V60. There are different versions of this. This particular one is BPA-free plastic, but you can also get it, I believe, in kind of a ceramic. There may even be fancier ones that are like stainless steel. And so this comes in a multitude of form factors. The big thing about this is that you can see it's kind of have this like pattern on the inside of it, right? Kind of swirls and looks a bit tornadic, I guess. And then you have this opening at the bottom as well, and then a handle on the side. And so this one, like I said, BPA free plastic, but you can get it in other types of materials as well. So just know, but if you get this version, it is plastic, and it's relatively inexpensive too. That's why I grabbed it. Here is the craft with a T. This, however, is glass. So be mindful of that when you're brewing. If you're brewing with this particular version, you don't want to drop this because it's glass, it will break. It also has this cap in it. I'm gonna imagine that's to keep in heat as well as to allow the beverage to escape pretty freely at this spouting point. So I'll just kind of hold that up there. Hopefully we can get it to focus nice. It's a little bit harder for things to focus when they're glass, but you see there's got the cap there. They've got measurements as well on the other side, so you'll know about how much is actually in here. And I believe this is in milliliters. I think that's right. But if you guys know better than me, absolutely drop that in the comment section below, but I'm seeing 400 and 600, so that's my guess. This says heat-proof glass. That may be true, but that doesn't mean the glass does not get hot. Please, 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 if you're getting this after brewing your beverage, grab the handle so you don't burn yourself. So that's something to keep in mind as well. What else is in the box? We've got filters, paper filters. I think, if I'm guessing correctly, these are probably a number 2 traditional cone shape. And so if you need to, get more of these filters, or you want to try different filters, I think the number 2 is the one that you get for this particular device. And then we have, looks like an instructional guide, and that's exactly what it is. Very cool. They've got some interesting little illustrations in here. Oh, and this folds out almost into like kind of one of the old school posters that you used to get in the magazines back in the day. But I'll just go to here to the 4 steps. So looks pretty simple in nature. Let me see if I can get it to focus on this. Okay, so you got step 1, you got the filter situation going on. Step 2, after you've put the filter in, I would imagine you'll want to moisten the filter to get a good seal around it. They talk about what good and bad delivery of the water is. And as we stated before, with the Chemex, going in a circular motion is ideal. I've also seen some instances where they kind of hyper focus on getting it on the filter. So after they've gotten the grounds moistened and they've kind of agitated it a bit to make sure that all of the grounds are good, then they actually, pour it on the outside where the filter is so you can see. And then in the final step, they show they're saying to essentially take your water with your gooseneck kettle in a circular motion, basically allowing it to feel. And they also stress the importance of shaking the coffee level, and that is important. Again, watching James Hoffman, who I've mentioned in videos before, he actually proposes that not only that you level it, but you actually use your finger, or you could possibly, if you don't want to use your finger, you can maybe even use this back of the spoon to put a little bit of a pit in the middle of the coffee grounds. That somehow helps the bloom, which is what's necessary to make sure that you're getting the right type of extraction with your coffee. And then after you swirl it a bit and get your grounds kind of well mixed, then you start to slowly add more and more water, making sure to go around the edges to get the grounds off the side, because you want to make sure that you maximize the infusion process. And so that's what they're showing in here. They also show some other filter options, maybe some other devices that they have in their product line. But the important part is on the inside, and then the 5th step on the outside. So it's 5 steps total, not 4. But then they show on the 5th step what you need to do to complete it. And it's essentially following suit with everything you've already done. And so this is pretty cool that they put the actual instructions to how to make it, and they give a really well drawn out way of following along with how to actually brew with the V60 correctly. So I like that. That's very cool from this device. And then of course they have kind of the care, what you need to do for caring for the device itself. And so keeping it clean, making sure that you don't damage it, and that you're able to use it for as long as possible. But again, not super thick, lightweight reading. And so all of that was included in this box. But again, the big and important components are, of course, the V60, the craft with the removable lid. This is where it sits as it's doing its thing. And you'll probably want to, if you're trying to get a specific formula or what they call a recipe, then you'll want to make sure that you sit this atop a scale. And I have a scale, and we'll take a look at the scale in a later hardware video. But that's why you've seen in some of my videos me using a scale. I'm trying to get some measurements to determine what's going to allow me to get the best flavor out of this coffee for me. If I taste it and it's a little stronger than I like, then I know maybe I need to use less grounds, maybe a little bit more water. If it's you know, got a sour taste or a bland taste. Those all deal with the amount of time it takes to actually do the infusion process. It can also play a role in the size of the grounds, how fine the grounds are that I'm using. So these are all things that play into it. The scale allows me to get fairly accurate measurements. And again, I don't hold 100% to the scale. I get it. There are ratios. I think the 15-to-1 rule is the one that's most popularly used in this space. If you've never heard of that, by all means, you know, do some additional research. If you want me to shoot a video on the 15-to-1 ratio, let me know in the description below, and I'll do a quick video on that based off of the information that I found. But essentially what they're saying is it should be 15-to-1, 1 part water, 1 part coffee, 15 parts water, right? So that's the ratio that they're saying that gives you the optimum flavor profile. What I say is that go with whatever tastes best to you. A lot of times in brewing with these new techniques, better flavor comes out just by nature of how you're brewing the coffee now. So just tossing that out there as a little nugget. But right now we're actually going to get into brewing with the V60. You're going to see me actually following the steps that I mentioned before, and we're going to see what the end result looks like. So you'll know what it takes to actually brew with the V60 method. All right, so here we go, brewing with the V60 method. Now I am going to go ahead and put the V60 on the craft that came with the set. You can also put the V60 on top of a mug or a glass or whatever you're going to actually consume the beverage from. Either way works, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. So I've got it on top of the craft. I've gone ahead and put the V60 on top. I've also put the filter in there, and now I'm moistening the filter. Again, this is to make sure that I have a really good seal. So, you know, the coffee is not just kind of moving around in there, and also that you get the adequate amount of water to fill the coffee grounds to get the best type of infusion possible. I'm now pouring my grounds in, and then once they're in, I'm gonna just shake it a bit to get them level. And just like I said before, using kind of the James Hoffman method of this, I'm gonna go ahead and give a little bit of an indentation in the middle. I'm going to use my finger. Feel free to use a spoon or whatever you are most comfortable with using. Now that I've got this kind of shallow pit inside of my grounds, I'm gonna go ahead and begin to kind of pour the water in a circular motion into it. The whole purpose of this initial pour is just to get the grounds moistened and wet. I want to make sure that all of them are kind of immersed in water. And so once I've poured a little bit of water in, I'm going to swirl it a little bit to agitate it. You can also use a spoon if you want to stir it just a bit. Just make sure you stir one direction once and the opposite direction one time as well. And so now I've gotten it kind of swirled around a bit. And so I'm going to start from the outside in a circular motion and move to the inside with my gooseneck kettle, trying to make sure that I maintain a level of control so that, you know, the coffee gets the maximum type of infusion that I'm looking for. I'm just going to keep adding the water slowly because I want things to kind of infuse at a relatively slow rate. I want to maximize how much coffee I'm actually getting out of this particular brewing method. You'll notice that it'll go ahead and start to drip into the craft or whatever container that you're using for holding your coffee. And then you just want to continue to add a little bit more water to it as kind of the bloom continues to rise, and then just allow it to do its thing, and it will brew over this period of time. The big thing about this method, just like the Chemex, is that you have to kind of keep a watchful eye over it and continue to pour at a steady pace in order to get the best results. So it's very important that if you're going to do this method, just like you were going to do the Chemex method, that you have a decent amount of time to do so, because it's going to take a little bit longer to make sure that you get the most out of this particular brewing method. All right, once my water has now infused with my coffee grounds and is now a caffeinated beverage in the bottom, I want to make sure that it's completely down, that there's no additional water still on the grounds to drip out. I can now pull my V60 off of the craft in this particular case. In your case, it may be your mug, and I can pour it into my mug to now enjoy. if it's already on a mug, you can just drink it straight from the cup or mug itself. So as you've noticed, the V60 is a process that takes a little bit more time, probably about the same amount of time as it takes for the Chemex. But that's okay. If that's the way that you choose to enjoy your beverage, this is just another method of brewing. It is relatively inexpensive, so that's great. It doesn't hurt the pocketbook too much. As long as you have the coffee available, you should be good to go. The other thing that's really cool about this particular brewing method is that you can either brew it in a craft, so you can brew a large amount of it for multiple people, or if you're like myself, multiple cups. Or you can maybe just brew kind of a single serve and keep the amount of coffee that you use relatively small. There's a lot of control involved in this process, and that's one of the things that I love about this particular version of the pour over by using the V60. Now, this is my first time brewing with the V60. Not necessarily a pour over technique, but this particular pour over technique, this is my first time using it. As you saw earlier on in the video, I did an unboxing, so I hadn't even taken it out of the box yet. So I'm pretty excited to see what kind of results this yields. We do actually have a couple more videos coming up on brewing techniques. We're actually going to shift into brewing tea now. And so I'm going to have a couple of devices that we're going to show regarding how I'm going to brew tea on this channel, because we're absolutely going to brew tea as well as coffee, and then infusion beverages. And then there's going to be some coffee alternatives too that I would say fall under the infusion beverage umbrella. So we'll use some of these same techniques that we've already shown for brewing the coffee to brew those as well. I want to make sure you have a multitude of options to reference in terms of brewing your coffee, tea, and infusion beverages, because we may not all have all this equipment at our disposal, but if one or more of these ways sound intriguing to you and you think, oh, this might actually allow me to get better flavor out of my coffee, by all means, check out the description below. Go ahead and grab one or all of these methods. You can either follow along, or you can just grab one and let me know, how did it work out for you? Drop some comments in the section below. Give me some feedback, suggestions. And if you have any coffees or teas that I should be trying, now's the time to go ahead and load those up in the comment section. Now, trust me, I have about, I don't know, 50 different types of coffee and maybe 40 different types of teas. So this channel is going to be set for a little while on, different beverages that we're going to make. But that doesn't mean I'm not open to suggestions. I still am. And if there's something that I find really intriguing, I may have it jump the queue and we may go ahead and brew that and see what kind of results that we get out of it. So hopefully today, in seeing how to brew with the V60, you were encouraged, you learned something, you thought, wow, that's a cool technique that I think I'd like to try. Maybe it's something that you can actually then buy and then implement, so you feel, empowered to go ahead and execute on making your coffee in that particular method. And then lastly, maybe it's something that you feel inclined to teach someone else. The entire point of this channel and this community is to find the information and then share it with others. And so if you found this video intriguing, interesting, and something that you want to try out and you're willing to share, by all means do so. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. We're continuing to build our community, and there's going to be a lot more videos coming. So also make sure that you hit the bell. It's going to be very important that you do that. Again, we're going to be talking about tea brewing methods in the next couple of videos. Then we're going to get to the last part of the hardware, and then it's time to get down to brewing. I'm going to have a unique way of selecting which brewing methods we're going to use specifically for coffee, since we have so many options. So stay tuned for that. And I'll let you know how we're going to pick. We're probably going to do something that kind of randomizes, and we're going to pick a couple of different techniques. But I'm still working on that part of this